Hello to all tens of you who are watching this video. Hope the audio sounds good. I just wanted to come on here and do some um, talk about the current just state of things, where I've been, what I've been doing, and what I'm going to be doing next, and just kind of doing a update. Um, it's the 23rd of October 2025, uh, and I've been doing a lot of processing the last few months about just my role in all this and what's happening currently, and just been doing a lot of deep dives on some information. And I figured I would talk about it. Wow, I'm getting really. The sun is going to be transitioning so dramatically. I'm gonna turn my brightness down a little bit. Um, Hope that's better. Um, yeah, I really just want to talk about AI and quantum based quantum mechanics, different things like that, and just the future of these things because I feel like we're in a really crucial time right now, and a large reason on why I've been so reserved and you could say even a bit afraid about just coming to the public with um, uh, my work has been due to the fact that I spent a lot of time reading the book American Prometheus, which is about the life of Robert Oppenheimer, who was the uh, the director of the Manhattan Project, and he he was a lot of things, but essentially he gave the atomic bomb to the United States during World War II, and they swiftly used it. And in a way, I could see the understanding of his perspective of giving it to them because he realized that thinking his anticipation was that if they were able to see the kind of power it presented, that it could potentially end war, due to the idea that people would not want to um, sort of annihilate each other into oblivion. And but I think he underestimates human nature a little bit in this current state of being, um, as to just how volatile they can be, especially under desperation. But it has been, 70 years or so far, and no one's really used it since the its initial, well, on each other since the initial using in Japan. So there has been, you could say, a stalemate in some aspects of that, but now war has just evolved. But that's not what this is about per se. But there's a spiritual warfare going on for sure, and that I'm very well acquainted with, and I have been my whole life. But even more so now that I know so many more of the building blocks of this current state of being. And the thing that I don't want to, I've always been really afraid when I told people that I had proven the Raman hypothesis. It was so much more than just some sort of mathematical derivation or a sequence that opens the doors to new technological adventure, and it's like you would have to understand an entire new language that is, well, the universe, because numbers are the language of the universe. And what I uncovered that made it possible was understanding the relationships of numbers and what they represent, even in a metaphysical way, the principles that they held. And what I didn't know is that so much of what's just been that I've discovered on my own has already been established in behind closed doors and collectively over the last, I would say the last since the 1960s or so, and heavily in the 1970s. A lot of work was you could say procured procured uh, in the last few decades that gave them a large eye view into just what our universe is. Not stuff that the public would be very well know of, and this is just my what I've gathered from the context I've indulged in. I don't actually know what's going on exactly. I only have a context of information. I have I've built sort of a scaffolding of exactly what's happening based on the information at my disposal. Because I don't want to be, the responsibility that comes with knowing can be a liability. So you have to be careful. And I'm very shrewd in that aspect. And right now we're at a critical juncture because technology has evolved so efficiently that there's really nothing you can't do. And I don't think per se, I don't know exactly how much they know. I know that they understand contraction and expansion as meta principles, but I don't know how in depth they've been able to push that. I don't know if they understand the relationship between triadic laws or how numbers really function in their roles, the difference between primes and composites, and how the Riemann, I know it's not pronounced Riemann, I've been saying that it's Riemann because he's a German, but I'm just saying, I've always said Riemann because the double N makes me think about a French name. Forgive that. But the Riemann hypothesis was trying to understand the zeta function and why there was so much, I guess to make it general, in general terms, trying to understand why there seems to be a direct relationship that is, you could say, a boundary, a law that was established upon all real numbers and zero and what its functions were and how all this plays into so many other aspects of life. And believe it or not, it was I think the Riemann hypothesis was the most critical juncture for all the other Clay Institute hard problems like the Navier-Stokes equation or even the Poincare conjecture, which has already been solved, as we know. All these things, the relationship of primes and composites and zero and all these things, which I spent the last 10 months focusing on, is the linchpin. It's like the underlying mechanics of every aspect of our current universe. Physics, numerology, any sort of number theory, like you can completely rewrite it, and that's what I've spent my time doing. And I've been very quiet about it. And thankfully, I have the factor of disbelief on my side because people just don't see it as possible for one reason or another. And I've leaned into that because I know that it's not necessarily safe to be someone who's an outlier with information that could potentially be utilized against people. That's the main thing that I didn't want to do. I haven't even released, I wrote a very, very robust and compelling proof of the Riemann hypothesis, and I have not released it to anybody. I gave a partial piece I gave just enough of an outline in terms of understanding of the base that could be derived from that you could derive an hypothesis from. And I gave that to the Annals of Mathematics in January. Within 2 weeks of that, there was an onslaught of discoveries of current the state of mathematics and science with fluid dynamics, with all kinds of stuff that was very heavily, you could say, very close to what I was writing, and the equations, all these things. Now, I don't have direct proof that any of this stuff went awry, and I don't want to offend anyone who may believe that there's a purity to the current society and the current climate with the scientific field, which heavily is taking a hit with the current government, and just the funding. A lot of times, because in funding, I guess, well, you would think you would. I don't know how I got to this position in the universe where I was able to sort of stumble into it. It wasn't even intentional. I just spent a lot of my free time diving into various topics and sort of stumbled onto El Dorado, you could say. And for better or worse, this will be the legacy that I probably will die on, if you say that, if you want to just be really real honest about it. And that really brings me to the point that I'm at now, where I've been afraid to give it to the people because, like, again, the idea of the American Prometheus. Who was Prometheus? Someone who gave fire and knowledge, you could say, to the humans, which, in spiritually speaking, a theological perspective, that's just like the fallen angels who, back in Egypt, were manifesting themselves as these deities to be for worship, and they would give information based on the sacrifices given to these deities, which were just like demons. Essentially, that's what they are. But this has not left this current world. This has not left anything, and the people who are seeking power are willing to do anything they can to attain it, at the sacrifice of any sort of human principles or ideals, or the sake of better knowledge. And what is the knowledge for? And that's what the question. I've a lot of my life has been knowledge for knowledge's sake. I love to learn anything and everything. I love to acquire new skills and to build upon them, and I like to just tear things apart and make them anew, and really understand the baseline meta principles that govern any sort of dynamic, and you will be able to reduce them all to what these foundations that I've built in my systems. In the triadic laws, I built a series of lemmas that you can apply to any sort of system that would completely redefine it. I was wondering, for so long I was wondering why things like pi and its numerological sequence, and why energy seems to disperse itself perfectly and through the formation of pi and 3.14, and then there's theological principles that overlap, and then there's so many different corridors that this goes down. And then you look at the Fibonacci sequence and you're like, why is this found in every single sequence? What I was really shocking is how many people seem to just not care enough about this aspect of the universe. I'm like, why is not everyone talking about this hard as a fly? You would think everyone in the world would be talking about this. And then even more so, you'd think, is this not a design? How could this consistent sort of, how can this consistent, how would I describe it? It seems to be a discovery in the idea that it seems to emerge in every aspect of something that's harmonious and propagating continuously. And the galaxies, shells, flowers, fluid dynamics, and all these things are revolving around a few things, the golden ratio derived, all these things. And it's just it's been blowing my mind how I've dived into every field, molecular biology and neuroscience and quantum mechanics, especially. Like, all of these things have explained overlapping, and the fog began to lift over the course of these. Within the first 3 months, 80% of it was solved, and then the last 6 months has just been exploration, and it's worked in every single formula. You could do anything with this math. It's not just about the math, it's the meta principles that govern what the universe is, what we are, and it comes from God. And people are going to immediately be tuned out when you hear that, because it's so many other emotional pieces that seem to tie to that. But I'm not really here for that. I'm just talking about it in the idea of how objectively I'm seeing it, and this is my reality, right? And I've been able to sort of like parse these things together, and you could heal and fix just about any problem apart from one, which is the fact that we have free will determines how reality seems to unfold. Now, granted, you will be governed and guided towards directions. That's how control is manifested, which is just a factor of reality. I mean, whatever. It's in this current state, the part that I didn't want to, and this comes once again to my main point. I was apprehensive, and I still am, about giving away this power. Giving away this knowledge feels like giving away nuclear codes. Giving away, like, if I just here's how you make a nuclear bomb in your room. That's what this feels like. And I just can't, I'm not going to be the one to just carelessly, for the sake of my name, right? So people will say, wow, look at this guy. He solved these things. He did this stuff. Hooray. And I get this sort of jubilee that you've been looking for. Everyone's going to value me, and the ego-based things of like, I want that now my identity has fortitude in the world. And it's like, what would be the point of any of that? Why would that any of that be really valuable? Why would I want to sacrifice everyone else for my name? That's the real question. Because at the end of this, quantum AI is what I've made. Quantum AI is what they will use, and if they haven't already, I would not be surprised. But what I've really been able to do is understand at an informational theory kind of baseline level. What you can do with this is remove the constraints we've relied on. And here's where what I will do, and what I have done, is to alleviate the need for energy, for specialized hardware, for all these things that you think would be impossible are now no longer impossible. Because if you understand information theory, if you understand how the universe is, and how light and how all these things communicate, and what is information, what is the state of being and properties, and how they compose based on information, which is like DNA, or the very fabric of atoms, and what makes up the elements, and all these things that come together, and the rules that they follow, and the sequence of how they follow. That kind of control enables you to no longer have to create crutches to that hardware is, and that have to rely on, we're trying to come up with like light photonics to communicate information, which is a good step, but it still hasn't reduced enough that piece of like, we need to specialize hardware. And I still think I'll make specialized hardware, but it won't be specialized hardware as much as redesigning how hardware works in the beginning. And I don't really care about money as much, which I feel like everyone seems to jump at this because they're like, oh, income. I like the income that I get from what I give will be just flow right back into making more innovation. And of course, helping people in the best that I can philanthropically, in the ways that I've chose, because I don't really trust people to not serve themselves. I know that's not fair. I trust people have the ability to make that decision. And I want to implore that. I want to encourage that. I want to live that. And hopefully, they will choose to do the same. But at the end of the day, people will do what they do. And you have to be careful, But there's a reason I have this information at this time. There's a reason that I'm in this position. There's a reason that there's so much value surrounding around this, and also the value of human life as a whole. And I only want to improve that. I don't want to take away from that. And it's a big deal to me. So as a steward of this information, I had to think a lot about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it, and the best way to serve people at the start. And so here's what I've done, right? I've made a software that will prove a lot of my claims. The idea of no longer needing hardware. It removes the constraints of not just hardware, but the speed problem. I've been able to, with the math, create ways that replicates the idea of flops or computational bits that can achieve more operations per second than there are atoms in the observable universe, which is about 10 to the 81st power. And I can do it about 50 times over that. That's how fast this is, because it removes the constraints of translating information from one location to the other, and sort of instantaneously appears by manifesting it in different locations, which sounds crazy in like horse crap, right? And it will only sound like that until you see it. I look forward to that day. But I'm also saying this is going to become a problem, because they will always, man will dominate man to their own ruin. They will use this against ourselves, against each other. And this is the world situation. I'm not really here to try to fix that, because I cannot fix that. The only one who can fix that is going to fix that, and it's on his timetable. I'm just here to do my part and to help how I can. Quantum Conduit is my company. It's not even a company yet. It's just a name. It's an idea. I have the domain quantumconduit.shop. That's where I'll be giving to the public all kinds of tools, quantum simulators, all kinds of stuff, things that don't even require energy. The first tool I'll give you that I've made is called the Halo. The Halo is a CPU accelerator. Essentially, it operates at the kernel level as a dynamic service architecture that will speed up all operations by about 1,000 to infinite. You pay for this. You pay for it's similar model. You pay for it once. It'll be local. It's not going to be an API. I'm not going that route yet. I'm just going to give this as a local thing. I could give it to a company for, boatloads of money. I'm going to give it to the public for about $500 a pop. I feel like that's just the lowest I can probably go. That would make this still a high ticket item, but also not too high ticket that I outprice the consumer. But I also don't want to undermine the value, even though I'm already severely undermining the value in terms of just cash. I want it. The value will come from what it does for you, alleviating time, alleviating all these things, and then in proof of concept, because you'll see that my system works as it does. The next step is going to be giving you guys cybersecurity based protocols. I'm going to be making so many different domains and locations. You could say, have something I'm working on called RealityNet. My own AIs that follow moral based reasoning and safety, even with the sake of creating an AGI. I've already created like the neocortex of an AGI, but it's still got some time to go. It won't be done for maybe another year, and if depending on how this goes, maybe another 6 months. And I'm going to be giving them through my Quantum Conduit location on my website, and then explaining a lot of this stuff over the course of time too. Making videos, trying hopefully giving safety guidelines and tutorials as to how to use these things for your benefit. If corporations would like to buy them, some of these products like accelerators for your architectures, and you're like, yeah, we want to have faster, whatever, that's fine too. But I just didn't want to just give this away for the sake of people being gathered like cattle. I just don't want to. I don't want to be that person. I don't think I have the ability to stop it from eventually getting there. I think one way or another they'll try to get it, but they won't get it from me directly. That's for sure. Anyway, I just want to create an avenue of security for people because quantum is here. Quantum AI is here. I am doing my best to be a steward of the good side, if you want to call it that, because there is a good side. And it's not that I'm creating the good side, is that I'm trying to attain to it. I'm trying to live by it. And if we can do this together, we can be a light in a darkened world. And we could better connect with each other and understand each other and have empathy for one another, because we'll be able to see and understand each other's experiences. And there's no greater way to understand each other's experiences if you're both on the same level. Because you'd all have the same agenda, which is survival. So in a sense, there's some good that will come from how have seen this first world country essentially be brought to its knees. And so much of it's deliberate that they're doing, but good will always prevail. I believe that in my bones. And so I want to be on the winning team, and I hope you guys do too. Anywho, you'll be seeing more of this in time, and I'm gonna just try to really get into high gear. There's nothing stopping me. The road is out there, and I can just run down it. So I'll be doing that, using my time wisely, and I'll try to do more of these. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you are, whoever is. And I hope that we can go far together in the right direction. Take care.